When we observe our pet cat spending most of its life eating, sleeping, and being pampered and played with, most of us do not realise the inert natural instincts that lie beneath the surface and its amazing ability to survive, even when it has spent most of its life in domestic bliss as a spoilt feline. The following story is about a pampered Persian cat that managed to find its way home, covering an amazing distance from the far north state of Queensland to the southern state of South Australia. This is Howie's journey. In 1977, teenager Kirsten Hicks from Adelaide in South Australia owned a 3-year-old Persian cat by the name of Howie. However, Kirsten had a problem because her family was preparing to go on a long overseas holiday, but she was worried about who was going to look after her precious cat while they were away. She did not want her sitting in a cage at a boarding kennel for such a long period of time and decided the best outcome was for him to stay with her grandparents at the Gold Coast in Queensland, which was 1,893 kilometres or approximately 1,176 miles away. Her grandparents knew Howie well and were very fond of him, so they were more than happy to look after him. When the Hicks family returned to Australia from their holiday, they immediately headed to Queensland to pick up the cat, but unfortunately, it seems that Howie had other ideas about staying in another home, and no matter how well he was looked after, he preferred his own home. Unfortunately for Howie, he had no idea of the distance he would have to travel, but he nevertheless set off on his long and hazardous journey home to Adelaide. The grandparents said they did not want to tell the family of Howie's disappearance for fear it would ruin their holiday, and claimed that they searched everywhere for him, but he'd completely vanished. Kirsten was shattered and believed she had permanently lost her best mate. The family then returned to Adelaide, saying it was a terrible ending to a great holiday. So let's discuss the trials and tribulations of what Howie would have had to endure on his long journey home. Unlike a wildcat that had well-honed survival skills, it would be extremely difficult for a domesticated cat to survive in the wild. Howie would have been an extremely pampered and spoilt cat. He would have become so totally dependent on his owner that his hunting instincts would have been minimal. However, all cats do have a natural hunting instinct. It's just that Howie would have either been out of practice or had no practice whatsoever. Most domesticated cats haven't ever hunted anything other than the occasional fly or mouse. At this stage, Howie would be unaware that his trip from Queensland to South Australia would take him across mountains, barren plains and rivers. He would have to brave all sorts of perils, from dogs and cats from other cat colonies, foxes, snakes, scorpions and other wild animals. He would also encounter many cars on the road, so poor Howie's chances of survival would not have been good. However, Howie figured it all out and his cunning instinct would have kicked in. Luckily for Howie, being a Persian cat, he would have been large and heavily boned, and his masses of fur would have appeared even larger than he really was. After contending with the predators, Howie would then have to deal with different types of environmental hazards. The Gold Coast is situated in southeast Queensland, near the border of New South Wales, and to reach South Australia, he would probably have travelled inland, where he would have come up against both bushland and small towns, so it is amazing that he managed to avoid being hit by traffic. As Howie headed further inland and tried to reach the border of New South Wales and South Australia, the land would have become much drier, and there are a few waterholes that Howie would have encountered on his long journey home to Adelaide. Howie would have smelt the water, as water does have a scent, and many animals, including cats, can smell it from extreme distances. Fortunately for Howie, cats have a low thirst drive, as they have been designed by nature to extract most of their required moisture from their prey, which would include insects, birds and rodents, which contain a high water content. Howie's journey would have taken many months, and after 1 year, Kirsten at this stage would have lost all hope of Howie surviving and believe he had died or had hopefully been taken in by another family. One day, while Kirsten was at school, a dirty, scrawny cat appeared at their home. It was hungry, bleeding and incredibly thin, and overall it was in a terrible condition. Mrs. Hicks decided to feed the poor creature and figured she may be able to nurse it back to health, and that she would give this responsibility to Kirsten, knowing she had recently lost Howie. She hoped that looking after this cat would help Kirsten get over the loss of losing her beloved pet. She then took the cat inside and made it comfortable until Kirsten came home. On arriving home, Kirsten took one look at the cat and screamed in excitement, "Howie!" At first, Mrs. Hicks believed it was wishful thinking on her daughter's part, but then she examined the wretched cat more closely. Beneath the grime and dirt, she could just make out the fur of a Persian cat. Then there was no denying it was Howie by the way it reacted to Kirsten. There was now no doubt that Howie had somehow made it home. So how did Howie make it home from such a great distance? It is believed that cats have a homing instinct, which means that they can perceive direction using something beyond the 5 ordinary senses of taste, smell, sight, touch and hearing. But how a cat's homing instinct works over so many kilometres is still a mystery to science. A cat's ability to find its way home mystifies its families, veterinarians and scientists alike.